Joining us in the studio today, once again, the Battle Creek Police Chief, Jim Blocker, and Calhoun County Sheriff Matt Saxton. Good morning, gents.
Good morning. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. And actually, we've recruited these gentlemen to help us with a round of Richard's Christmas concentration coming up in a while. So we'll tell you when to call, okay? The sheriff has the game board memorized, I think. You've been paying attention, have you?
You have to pay attention to win the game. Now I can't call in anymore.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you've become an active participant now. Apologize for that. All right. So this year, if we just look back on the year for a minute, this has been a difficult year, just regionally and globally speaking in law enforcement, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, it has been. I think it's something where with you add to it the election, it's been a colorful year, for lack
right.
of a better description.
Yeah.
And I do hope in this next year, 2017, we'll be a little more introspective. We'll look at what happened and hopefully make some improvements in terms of how we see ourselves, how we see our country, and how we see our way forward.
Mm-hmm. How do you see it, Sheriff? Is this an opportunity to turn things around a little bit in some respects?
Well, you always want to start the new year out on a good foot and look at the positive future as opposed to some of the negative we've seen over the past couple of years. And we see that in the community. The support for law enforcement is there overwhelmingly.
Mm-hmm.
And the men and women that go out each day to serve in that capacity, whether it's police, fire, EMS, corrections. So I do look forward to a new year. And as Chief said, the election did add some colorful stuff, and I am thankful personally that the election is over. So
Right. That is a good point that you bring up, and I've witnessed it some myself just in my travels, that as people encounter officers in uniform, they wish them a good word. Does that happen all the time, or has this, what we've dealt with this year, spiked that more?
It's been happening a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of it's a reaction to the tone that's out there. Mm-hmm. There are some multiple narratives out there, some true and some not so true. And I think the way we move forward, and maybe even the community response, not only certainly locally but nationally, is we're going to kill people with kindness and our compassion, but also from a law enforcement perspective, we're going to kill them with our professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do what's right all the time. And we realize, too, as a profession, like any profession, we stub our toe from time to time. We acknowledge it. We appreciate the criticism, the positive criticism, the proactive criticism. That's something we can do with.
This week has been active. A couple of stories that have been in the media this week. And we've talked, Chief, in the past about how cameras have changed the job, and this happens from time to time. A recording of an incident makes it onto social media and gains momentum, and this week it prompted the department and the city to issue a statement about it.
That's right. And this is not even what's interesting about this is this has been totally communicated by way of social media. Mm-hmm. There's been no formal complaint. There hasn't even been a casual complaint. We found out about it indirectly. We immediately started to react to it. And it's been a reaction via not only social media, but also the media itself, the professional media, if you will.
Yeah.
We've brought them in and shown them everything we could. And there's a danger here because there's a disconnect. For every, reaction or action, there has to be a reaction. So in this instance, I think we lose that connectiveness and the ability to show that impartiality by not communicating with the people and the parties involved. We have reached out to folks. We've asked them to cooperate, and they refuse. So it's all going to happen via social media. And, they don't have to.
Right.
But so we're using social media now as our new space in which we communicate. And I don't know if it's as transparent, as honest as people think that it may be. And that's the biggest challenge as we move forward. What is the true narrative? What really did happen? There's what you think you saw, and then there's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then oftentimes there's a considerable gap between the two.
So I presume then some of your thinking about law enforcement of the future incorporates this kind of activity. That is to say, some things are going to end up on camera and you're going to have to react to it, and that's the way things are now.
And we've seen that in law enforcement since the start of the dash cam and now body cams. And the video can be our best ally, or oftentimes if we don't have video for some reason, it can be our worst enemy. Unfortunately, we see even juries, if they're not seeing, because of made-for-TV police dramas, the juries expect DNA, video, confessions, audio, and gone is the time of believing a person for their word.
Wow.
The men and women that do this job every day are doing the best they can, and oftentimes, the video does speak volumes, but we have to remember they're still reporting honestly when that video is not there.
There's more to it than just that.
Well, that's right. And I guess in speaking specifically to this last incident, some of the best video footage we're getting is coming right off Facebook and coming right off the internet. And interestingly, the officer involved has found some exceptional video that has gone on to confirm that everything that was done was appropriate. And the challenge here is it's all about optics. Law enforcement still has to continue. Despite your capability as a person, whether you have a handicap of whatever sort, if you're still out there victimizing society, if you're still out there committing crimes, that doesn't mean, certainly we have to treat everyone with dignity and respect, but at the same time, the job still has to get done. And we really just ask that you also treat those officers with respect, you treat them with dignity, and you recognize that, the gig is up. It's time to cooperate. I haven't cooperated yet with society's laws or rules, but now that we've arrived, it's time to stop and just cooperate. And that didn't particularly happen that morning or that afternoon. And that's what we want to encourage people to do.
Yes.
That's why we have the justice system we have. I mean, the time to argue right or wrong of the police is not out on the street. The justice process will go through. If the officers are in the wrong, that'll show up in the course of the justice process.
Absolutely.
It's not the time to argue who's right or wrong in a certain instant.
Sheriff Matt Saxton and Chief Jim Blocker here. We're back in just a moment. We're here with Battle Creek Police Chief Jim Blocker and Calhoun County Sheriff Matt Saxton. A story Nico has in the news, and others reported it today too, this credit union hack. Boy, that is amazing that somebody put this kind of thought into convincing a credit union to make a six-figure transfer, and it happened. And it is testimony to the global nature of some crimes now, isn't it?
It is. I think the level of sophistication and even manipulation that goes into something like this, especially when you consider the reward at the end of it if you're successful, I think is phenomenal. I think in what we're finding across the board is that corporations, banks, financial institutions, everyone is struggling to deal with this new operating reality of the internet and security protocols. How do we appropriately protect our members and our customers, and at the same time still maintain that level of customer service that's necessary? The customer wants something right away, and so how do you combine both worlds together? And it takes a lot of technological savvy, and unfortunately, I think this is a good bad example of where sometimes it catches up to them.
The published report on that story in the Inquirer that I read, maybe it was you they were quoting or someone else, we're talking about money that's overseas now, and there's very little chance of getting that back.
Yeah, well, there was no quotes, I think, certainly not by me.
Okay.
I think we're going to make every effort to reach out to our federal counterparts, because once it leaves, our jurisdiction and state lines, it now becomes a Secret Service, Department of Treasury inquiry that we will work with them on.
Wow.
But the Reality also, though, even at that level, even with their capability and their sophistication to track these transactions, at this point, actually finding who was involved and getting that cash back is inherently difficult to do. Not impossible, but pretty darn difficult to do.
Yeah. We talked last week with Dave over at EPS Security about holiday safety, and he was talking to us about one of the things that they've seen is at holiday time, if it's clear someone's away, they break in, they clear out your house, and in the process of doing so, they find your car keys, load up your own car, and drive away in your car with your stuff. Have we seen stuff like this here?
We haven't seen it locally.
Good.
We do see the B&Es and folks breaking into homes that appear to be empty at the time. So there's some common sense things that you can do. Have a light on a time sensor. Make sure you're having somebody clear your driveway of snow or your sidewalks. Don't allow mail to pile up while you're gone. Make your home look lived in, even if you're not home.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing overall crime is still dropping, which is phenomenal, especially here and now. But the perception that it keeps going up. And so, just like the sheriff said, I think there are a lot of smart products, innovative products that folks can look into, purchase, and put in their home. There's smart strategies. If you're out of town and you're leaving, certainly let neighbors know. There's a lot of ways in which you can feel more secure by protecting your property and certainly yourselves. But also the electronic part, just like we talked about with the hacking earlier. The electronic crimes and the fraud. That's the level of crime that's going up. That electronic fraud and that identity, fraudulent identity crimes. Those are the ones that are going up exponentially and are of concern to all of us.
All right, and as folks are rushing to do their last shopping over the next couple of days, we got to keep our wits about us, don't we?
Well, and I would like to put out there the slogan, drive slow on ice and snow. We've had some snow over the past week, and we've seen a lot of slide-offs and accidents because of that. So give yourself extra time to get where you're going, and don't rush. Even this morning, with the wind yesterday, we didn't get any snow, but many of the secondary roads have spotty sections where snow has blown over and could cause your car to pull into the ditch if you're traveling too fast. So even when we don't have snow that day, the wind does affect that and causes issues on the road. So we need to, in the wintertime, just give ourselves more time, drive slower, and get to where we're going safely.
And when we're leaving the stores with our packages and things, to be vigilant of our surroundings, right?
That's right.
Okay.